Good evening, everybody. Good evening. We'll be with starting shortly. Just give everybody just a little minute to join us. While we wait, you could put in the chat where you're joining us from. So good evening again, everybody. My name is Carlos. I am a co-facilitator in our community outreach program. I want to welcome everybody to the Free Minds on the Same Page right night, a mutual exchange of hope and healing between incarcerated poets and the community. Tonight, I am accompanied by three great gentlemen who I've gotten to know virtually, but it's still a blessing nonetheless. Our future poet ambassadors tonight are Free Minds member James Carpenter and Antoine Coleman. We will be in conversation together along with my co-host Norman. A lot of us know Norman from our weekly build up in our build up weekly meetings. Norman Norman's Norman's Free Mind. Sorry. Norman's Free Minds Beloved Reentry Book Club Facilitator. Norman Brown has been a part of Free Minds since 2016 as an invaluable mentor and leader in our reentry program. Norman was granted clemency from President Obama in 2015. So thrilled to be with you tonight, Norman. And thank you all for joining us tonight as well. I want to extend a warm welcome to our our right nighters, and also those who are joining us for the first time tonight. I want to just remind everybody, if you use the chat, please just make sure you click on everyone. That way, all of us see the comments. Our incarcerated poets would be thrilled to know how many community members are supporting them and what cities and states they are joining us from. And so this is how it will go tonight. We will have a conversation with James and Antoine, and we will have an exchange, a chance to answer any of your questions until about 7:25. So please put any question that you have in the Q&A button below at any time. There will be, then they will share some quick tips on how to use the platform on Miro and give poetry feedback, and we will all be joining on the same page. So now I will turn it over to our Norman, who will introduce for us James and Antoine.
Thank you, Carlos. Thanks, Carlos. And it's wonderful to be here of the Free Minds family here tonight with you all. And I will get right to the introductions of our fantastic poet ambassadors. First up, we have James. James Carpenter joined Free Minds in 2016 while he was incarcerated in the Bureau of Prisons. At 17, James was charged as an adult and given a sentence of 57 years to life. After serving 18 years, during which he read over 500 books and earned numerous vocational certifications, James was released in 2020 under DC's Incarceration Reduction Amendment Act, called IRA. He is currently a Free Minds Congressman John Lewis Fellow, a fellowship named in honor of our Free Minds hero and civil rights icon. James also mentors justice-involved youth in DC as a credible messenger and works with Neighbors for Justice, an organization working to improve conditions and programming at the DC jail. Next up, we have Antoine. Antoine Coleman joined the Free Minds family in 2021. He was sentenced to 66 years to life at the age of 21. He earned his GED while incarcerated, despite leaving school in the 7th grade. He went on to become a GED tutor in the education department. He also worked as a suicide companion with the psychology department in prison and as a wellness coach. After serving 22 years, Antoine was released under the Incarceration Reduction Act just 2 months ago. Antoine is an assistant curator for resident arts at the Handful, if I pronounced that right, on floor. It's an art gallery in the historic Anacostia Art District. He is the author of 2 novels and many poems. Antoine loves creative writing, spending time with his family, and dedicating himself to helping others. Thank you, James and Antoine, for being here tonight. Carlos will now get right into our conversation. Carlos?
Thank you, Norman. So first of all, Antoine, want to welcome you home. Definitely, and congratulate you on your accomplishments in such a little bit amount of time.
Yeah,
Before
thanks,
anything,
brother.
thank you, home. Before anything,
Thank
like
you.
I want to invite you, like, to read one of your poems before anything.
Okay. Um, okay, this is called Where I Belong. Late night, dark hallway, an illegal profession. Worry eyes vigilant, felonies in my possession. Living life on a razor blade, but too scared to have fear. Looking out of a dirty glass door, I'm surely not happy here. I peer up at the full moon, glowing amongst countless stars. I think of a giant pearl, set in diamond, devoid of flaws. Beauty I see but can't feel. It's past time to call it a night. Before I knew it, I'm driving under downtown city lights. I see a small crowd compelled. I followed them into a lounge, heard something about right night. I found a spot and sat down. Powerful words filled my ears, profound enough to draw tears. Deep expressions of what I felt in my heart all of these years. Seeing I am not alone encouraged me to stand strong. Not in a hallway, but in a room full of poets is where I belong.
Wow, beautiful poem, and you definitely hear exactly where you belong at tonight. Um, and one of the things that I've mentioned is how I got to know you, right? Gotten to know you virtually, right? And I say that because we're separated by a lot of distance, right? But one of the things that sticks out to me is always like how after leaving school, on the 7th grade, it's like you took on the path of education, where even when you say like when you receive your GED, it's like your eyes glow, right? So my question is like what what made you stay on that path of education like that?
Um, I was myself, like I always enjoyed school. I used to be in spelling bees. I wrote, essays. I would say I was always pretty good in school, but due to circumstances and different things, I was never able to complete school. But I always had a strong desire to finish school, and even after being kicked out of school, I attempted more than one GED program, and but it was something that I felt I could get, and with my time being what it was, it didn't blind me to what I wanted, and so yeah, I was just so fortunate to get it. So the opportunity to actually help others, it was easy for me because I didn't look down on them. Like me understanding, like, okay, I got kicked out of school in the 8th grade. Last grade I completed was the 7th. So any brother who lacked, I didn't care how far back they were. I felt like if I can get it, I can help them get it. So and I think that helped a lot, and it made it easy because I don't have no shame in telling them, hey man, I got kicked out at a certain, but look what I'm doing. And I actually used my situation to encourage them. I said, man, I got life sentence. I ain't gotta have it. You gotta go home 6 months a year.
Yeah,
And man, it's beautiful, man. I actually just got a call from a brother. He was from Arkansas, and he was my celly, man. And I pushed him to get his. He had like 3 months left, and he got it.
man,
So
that's
it's,
wonderful.
it's yeah, man. So it was that. It's no feeling like that.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that too, because that's also an accomplishment. The other thing is, a few nights ago, you and I were talking about, going through prison and stuff like that at a young age, and you described the way writing changed, how you responded to people and in challenging situations, right? And your words exactly were like, like to you was like a mental victory, right? And how you switch from fighting to being like being reactive to writing. You also, I've noticed like how resilient you are in your poetry. You describe those, those outlets, and you acknowledge like even accepting and embracing certain emotions and then confronting those emotions and putting it to writing. Your statement was, and I'll never forget this. You said, "Without art, I don't know where I'd be." Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
For myself, like just different forms of art. But I say for me, like I really love the creative writing process, because like you say, whether I was writing novels or poetry is actually a little tougher than novels for real. And because you really have to acknowledge how you feel at that time, whether it's anger, hurt, love, whatever it may be. So so you have to acknowledge it. Then you have to confront that feeling, and that's difficult for a lot of us to confront those things. And so just to be able to confront it, acknowledge it, then confront it, and now I have to articulate it, and then do it in a creative way. And just so the process itself gives you a chance to really analyze those emotions, and put it in a way where it makes sense. And I don't feel, and that made me not, necessarily feel ashamed to feel a certain way. It was like, I say, man, it was real therapeutic, man. Just the process of it.
Yeah. Thank you, man. You said that so well. You also picked a poem by one of our members. The thought is art. Can you read that for us?
Can't, it's not up there.
You don't see it?
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Yep. All right, here we go. The Thought is Art by Breon A. The thought is art. The mind is the sun, shining bright on everyone, but too strong for some. Talented times, televised mind, articulated from the soul to allow the mind to mold. The thought is art. To allow the leaf to dwindle along the concrete on a never-ending journey. The thought is art. Never allowing the thought to be defeated, just as the wolf is in control of his decision, moving with precision. The thought is art. The thought is art. The mind is the sun, shining bright on everyone, but too strong for some. Talented times, televised mind, articulated from soul.
Thank you for reading that, and I like how you put, your own emotion and voice behind it. What made you pick this poem, and what stuck out to you about it?
At that point, it resonates with me because you can feel the emotion and the thought into him writing it. That's not something where somebody really had to sit down. He had to go through that process to write that. That same process that I speak of, I can feel it in his poetry, because you capture emotions in such a way where it's not clear, but it's clear. And is definitely an art to it. And that's not something that you can just sit down and put words together. But I say it really resonates because you can feel you can feel it, and when he said the thought is art, it makes me think of like you can really see the world how you choose to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like that is so vital to our stability in a place like that, because you can look at those bars as being something that holds you in, or you can look at those bars as something that you can push through.
Right.
And so it's definitely how you view life, you view what's around you. When he said the sun is bright for many, but too strong for some. And he meaning those thoughts, those emotions. It's too strong for some. Everybody can't confront those feelings. Some can embrace them. So, I think he captured that very well.
Thank you. And thank you, Antoine, for sharing that. Well said. Your poetry, of course, uplift us all. And my thing is like, as much as I can, I will always share your poetry in all our programs. Now I will give it back to my co-host Norman, and our poet ambassador James.
Thank you, Carlos and Antoine. That was excellent. Let's Brother
Thanks, bro.
James, let me bring you in on this conversation. There's a poem, James. Can you start us off with a poem from one of your Free Minds brothers? And the title of that poem is, to pick up where the brothers just left off, is What It Is to Be Free.
What it is to be free. So I didn't write this poem. I'm not a poet, and I really appreciate the poet, especially Antoine. That's a beautiful poem that he wrote. Profound.
Thanks,
very
brother.
profound poem. But this poem was written by a brother named Charles S. What it is to be free. To be free is to dream and to think about all of life's possibilities. To be free is to soar through the air to the greatest heights like an eagle. To be free is to move like water through mountains, tops, and streams with no resistances. To be free is to fight for equal justice, rights, respect. This is what it means to be free. That's Charles. Yeah.
Thank you, Brother James. You know, and I'm looking at that piece right there. What stood out to me was the part about the eagle. And you know, when you think about the eagle or any bird or any vehicle that can take us very high in the sky, the higher you go, the more you can see.
Mm-hmm.
And that really stood out to me of why he may have put that in there. What about this poem speaks to you, Brother James?
For me, when we had like the topics to pick, and I was reading and just thinking about my own life, having a functional equivalent of life sentence, 57 years of life, coming to prison at 17 years old, and just yearning for freedom, and then getting it and being out here. And then when he spoke about like fighting for equal justice and rights and respect, and just like the struggle isn't over once you become free. You know, I'm home, but now I have to produce, and I have friends that are incarcerated that I want to see home. So I knew I had the responsibility to do well so they can get an opportunity to advocate for them on their behalf. So that's what really stood out to me.
Thank you, brother. Now, while you were incarcerated, listen to this number. You read over 500 books. What role did reading play for you in your journey, and how does that play, and what role does reading play out for you now, and how do you use reading in your work with young people?
I did a lot of hold time, so that's how I got to read all the books. A lot of hold time, but reading, it just freed my mind. It gave me the opportunity to expand my worldview. I started out on fiction, and then I outgrew it and started getting into nonfiction. It's like certain books just found me. Might be a book in my cell already, or a book on the cart, you know, that could just take me and explain, you know, different things about life and history in the world. And now reading, like being a credible messenger, and I go into the juvenile facilities. First thing I do, if I come to one of their cells, I ask them, what are they reading? They usually show me an urban novel. And I ask them, I like, so what you do when you come across a word you don't know? And a lot of times they're like, I just go past it. I'm like, nah, man, you contextual read. You gotta get a dictionary. So that helps me help them, you know, go on the same journey that I went on in a small way, give them a push to expand their vocabulary and stuff like that. And hopefully they'll get their love for learning. I tell them how Michael X used to write down all the words out of the dictionary. So it's just stuff like that. But that's how it helps me practically.
Thank you, Brother James. Now you were such a caring mentor, and we appreciate you for that. You picked another poem to read by a Free Minds member, Still Behind the Walls. What to Expect by Marquise H. Could you read that for the Free
Sure.
Minds family?
What to Expect by Marquise H. If nothing else, expect to rely on your education. Expect reality instead of wishful thinking. There may be sunshine, but expect thunder with lots of rain. Expect there to be growing pains. It is what it is, and life's hard. Expect nothing being easy yet. Expect to learn from your mistakes. Take challenges head on, face to face. Expect steady winning the race. Expect rising above all pitfalls. Stay humble. Remember, before you walk, you crawl, and stay on God. Expect a snake given the chance will bite your back, but expect to survive fully. Don't crash and burn or go out in a fiery blaze. Expect the best from yourself. Expect to reach old age. Before every endeavor begins, expect to win. I'm sure I didn't give his his cadence, the proper cadence that he wrote the poem in, but I tried.
No, you did. You read well.
You gave it to him. Thank you, James. Now, that poem is so profound to me. I love the line, expect to learn from your mistakes. That was pretty deep. And why did you pick this poem and what resonated with you about it?
I think this poem was like just the optimism and that like it's like a lot of literature on positive thinking and setting your intentions and things of that nature. So it just seems like this person tapped into that line of thinking with just in setting your intentions and just trying to overcome obstacles, but doing it with optimism and just expecting to win.
Wow. Beautiful, brother. It was a pleasure working with you and listening to your breakdown of why you chose these poems and expressing the art of some of the brothers that are sharing what it is that they have on their heart. Now, this is the last question I may have for tonight. Here's a question for all of us here tonight. How important is it to receive mail while inside? And what tips or advice do you have for new Right Night volunteers and they giving feedback on poems tonight? Antoine, let's start with you. Antoine, let's start with you, brother.
First the importance of it. Once we in there, man, we really actually closed off to the world. And any letter that we receive from outside it gives us such a relevance. It keep you updated. It gives you the chance to stay in tune with your emotions. That you're not just absorbing the environment of all males, just as in such a miserable setting. So it's so many connections, man. It's so important to for us to receive mail, because a lot of us, my situation, I didn't think I was, but for the most part, a lot of guys in there are going to return. And so it's so healthy, man, to keep them as sharp as possible and as strong as possible. So when they return, they're not as shaken up. They don't feel as out of place and as lost because you kept them updated. As far as, I would keep in mind that a lot of these guys, they went in young. They were like myself. Some of us, we were uneducated. These form of art, how we might express ourselves is no form to art. However it comes out, might be a word missing, might be two. That might be intentional. I just ask that when you do comment to keep in mind, man, who you're commenting on. None of us went to school for this. This is just the best way we were able to express ourselves. And I ask that you look through the imperfections and really get, see, because you feel the core of what these brothers are trying to relate. Because it's tough, like I say, that process to sit down and identify and confront and articulate that emotion. I just, man, ask that y'all look at that part of it and appreciate that part of it and give them the best feedback that you can possibly give them.
Wow. Thank you, brother, for sharing that and putting us right in a thought of what comes and goes into sharing our art. Brother James, how do you see that question
Yeah,
or that
I agree.
statement?
I agree with a lot of what Antoine said. He was well said, and also just um, a person in there that's not getting mail could be looked at by the system or the correctional officer or something like, as expendable. Like they don't have no support in society. Nobody cares about them, and they might be treated differently. I mean, it don't seem like that from people out here, but people in there understand. Like they watch that type of stuff. They like, well, Mr. Such, he don't get any mail. He don't get on the phone. He don't have anybody, so they might deal with him differently. So it's just so much that goes into having support, and also just you just never know who you motivating. Like you comment on someone's poetry, you might be motivating the next great poet or great thinker or something like that, or you might have an opportunity to help someone improve themselves. So it's just so much that people in society can do. Because like he said, a lot of those guys are coming home, and what type of person do we want to come home from out of those conditions that's going to be around us one day? So that's what I'd like to say.
Thank you, Brother James, for adding to what was said. Brother Carlos, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, like first and foremost, like for me, like the importance of mail would be like I remember for me it was like a reset button specifically for hope, right? It motivated, it encouraged more of it. And the other thing is like my advice would be like be real and connect. Like I always tell people like a lot of the poetry may have like prison context. Like you don't have to have been through a physical prison. You could have been like, just held back by an emotion or a depth or whatever, and you could relate to that. So just be real in that way.
Thank you, Brother Carlos. And there's not much more I can add to what has already been said, other than I think it, like the brother said, it's a reset, it's a restart, and it adds value to your own defeated mind to just think that somebody took the time out to walk to a mailbox and that they were thinking about you at that moment, and for your name to get called in a room full of other men whose names are being called or who's not being called, to receive that mail is like going on a visit. So I think that it's very profound that we know the importance of receiving mail to help us keep our sanity. So thank you, brothers, for all of your feedback. It was outstanding. I really appreciate you, and I'll turn this back over to Carlos.
Okay, thank you, Norman. And we have time for one question. And this is a question for all the panelists. And the question is, you all seem so supportive of each other. How did you keep your openness and kindness to others in a system that reinforces the opposite negativity and division? We could start with Antoine if you want.
Man, that's a great question.
It is.
I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've taken from prison. It allowed the lines that separated us, the neighborhoods that separated us. I would have never met someone like James on the streets. It was so territorial how we were raised. And now, in the setting that we were in, you really get to see, and I had the opportunity, I'm talking about from all shapes and sizes, all races, all gangs, whatever, from different parts of our city, that we had more in common than we had differences. And we had a lot more in common than we had differences. And I think it was such a great appreciation for one another, because we shared the core values, respect and principle and law. All of us wanted to take care of our family. All of us, so we shared a lot of the core values. And so for us to connect on this side of the wall is easy. It's easy because we share those core values, and that's setting, you see a person in this rawest form. You're not hiding behind drugs. We're not hiding behind guns. We're not hiding behind our crew. You strip down to your rawest form, and you're going to respect a man in those conditions. if he conduct himself, man, to the highest level, even when we're at our best and at our worst. So I think seeing one another in our rawest form is going to develop a respect that's you can't measure it against nothing else. So to be able to connect these brothers on this side is easy.
Well said, brother. James, how about you?
Yeah, I guess it's like going through an ordeal that like a hazing process together or something like that. You come out of it, and you know that this person came out of it as well. And also, just for me, just finding my humanity, um, which is hard to do, you know, in growing up in those type of environments. You got to grow into that. You got to educate yourself into it. Either you do it yourself or then your life gonna do it anyway. You're gonna get too old or you're gonna get humbled by something, but you have to come into your own humanity, and it's just that's what happens. And we have like a kinship amongst the brothers, and we just want to see each other do well.
Right. Norman, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I think to add to what has been said is that, like James and all of us that are on here, we went in and we read and we found out that we were much more than our biggest mistake. And when we find out the values and we begin to be more principled men, then we'll start viewing one another from a higher level of than what we were currently doing. So when we see each other be vulnerable towards each other, and then the way we would support each other with what little bit that we had, that little bit meant so much at a
That's right.
time when we were on our back. So it's just such a wonderful experience when you're clear minded and then you're educating and you're knowing your potential while you're in there, and then you know your brother's potential, and it makes us handle each other a whole lot better.
Well said, gentlemen. Before we go any further, like I just want to just highlight one thing. If you want to support our work, please go to our website, freemindsbookclub.org, and hit the donate button. Any little bit counts, even if it's $1, that will be enough to send this feedback back to our poets in prison. So we thank you for that. So now we're going into just give you a brief tutorial of how to maneuver around Miro, which is the platform that you will be using to give the feedback. So it's just 5 little quick, easy things that you have to remember. The first thing is the arrow. The blue arrow basically opens the doors and lets you start writing. You can enlarge the poem by using the zoom at the bottom right. That's how you make it big, or you can make it smaller. You can scroll to the right, you scroll to the left. The other thing is the T for text. This is how you start typing. You just hit T, come over to the poem, and you start typing. And we pretty much like to address the poets by their first name. You know, you could sign off by a first name, meaning you don't have to use your name. You could use any name. That's just to keep it on friendly, like a friendly basic kind of thing. And then, like I said, you could scroll back and forth, left and right. The other thing is, the last thing is, on the first page, this is where you'll find the links to the other boards. So feel free to enjoy all the poems. Make sure you hit the links. This is the easiest way to join these links, to link into these links, is through your laptop or your tablet. If you're in on your phone, just in case you have problems, we put a Google Doc with some poems there, and that you could go to. If you have any tech issues, there's a number there that you could reach out to, and it will be available to you until 8:30 p.m. Tonight. Norman?
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Please click the link in the chat to read the poems on the virtual table to continue with the next part of Right Night. Please enjoy the poems, and we look forward to seeing you at our next Right Night in May. We will be closing this Zoom momentarily. Please click the link in the chat if you haven't already. Begin reading and responding to the poems. Thank you and have a great night.
Have a great night, everybody. Good night, y'all.